Hey, what's up, gang? I recorded a little bit of a video yesterday, but after the tournament, I kind of want to give a bit more of a concise thought. So this is going to be a quick little deck profile, quick quote unquote, but it's also going to be going over the tournament itself, the deck profile, then probably followed by some ideas of plays of like what this deck can actually do, as well as some counters for the deck going forward. And then finally, my overall thoughts on what I think this deck can accomplish realistically going forward. Okay, quick thing. I forgot to record the tournament part of the video. My bad. We'll go ahead and go over the tournament real quick, and then we'll just splice this into the beginning. This is after everything's done. This is me just editing. I forgot to do this. My bad. So, the tournament was a 34-person online locals. This isn't just like, you know, a throwaway tournament though. This typically has like people who are consistently topping in Ultimate Cups, like yours truly, obviously, brushes hair behind my ear, whatever. But there's also like people that consistently get like top 16, top 8, top like 32 throughout the tournament. So please keep that in mind that this was a pretty tough tournament. And I also went, my opponents were really high percentages on the win for like the opponent win percentages. So I didn't have like an easy time. I think I had one of the highest opponent win percentages at the end of the tournament as well. Unsurprisingly, obviously I got first, but so my first round was against red base Ancient Garurumon, the like Koji engine and stuff with like Uko, Mucho, etc, etc. I lost game 1, and then game 2 and game 3 I was able to kill them pretty effectively. The game 3 they ended up breaking, game 1 I ended up breaking, game 2 was a really close game. I think we played very, very well, except for me. I didn't play very well. I was very unhappy with my play towards the end, which is something that I may point out in the discussion or not, I don't remember, as I kind of like show gameplay. But I made like a couple of like big mistakes, which I was very unhappy with, but even throughout all that I was still able to kind of be built up by a bit of like variance and my opponents just not being able to deal with what the deck was kind of doing, which was fantastic. Obviously you prefer not to be bailed out, but I mean, first place is first place. $80 is $80. It is what it is. Game 2 was against a friend of mine called V-Passion. Very cool dude, like him a lot. He was on Imperial Magna, which I think is a very, very strong version of the deck. I've been pretty unimpressed with Imperial as like a base, and I've been pretty unimpressed with Magnamon as like the top end for like the Magnamon and Yellow Vaccine decks. But when you combine these two together, they are really, really good, including the new option, the 2-cost Primogenitor, which is just a better Golden Knight, because it's instead of 3 mana, it's just 2 mana, and then it also adds protection on top of your invulnerability, which is disgusting and really good. I played against it with my Numemon list before, and I got cooked. It was actually all the typical stuff I used for both of the decks kind of just did not work as well as I would have liked it to, and I did get just straight up cooked. Then I went against the third deck. I don't remember what I actually ended up playing against. I think it was the Gabu hybrid deck, but I could be wrong. Then fourth round, I played against the Demon Lords deck, which is, I think, probably the hardest matchup for us. I don't bring this up in the counter part of the video, so I'll bring it up now. The fact that us bouncing them is like kind of fine, just because even though they're not getting the double ad underneath, they're still getting the singular ads. They're always kind of like progressing towards their stuff. But more importantly, the Lucemon Chaos mode is really, really, really mean and really gross and really shitty, and I hate it. They will abuse that a lot, and because of how much we value our tamers, we're typically letting them recover, which sucks. But also because of it being an interrupted effect, the way it kind of resolves is we attempt to bounce the Lucemon, it will trigger, which will let it play out from trash for free, typically like a Creepy or like a Levia. And then because they added to hand, our effect will trigger first, as well as they're like on play for their Digimon. Ours will resolve first though, because we're turn player. So we'll bounce a security to hand, which is nice, but that typically just kind of goes net neutral, especially if we didn't, specifically if we didn't trash like a Tamer or a Digimon. So they got the recovery, so we kind of just, nothing happened there, which is really shitty for us. But then they pop our Ancient before we can get the Swing Off, which is another check down the drain. And then if we don't have an analog already out, let's say we were trying to do analog as like our capstone for the turn, so like we'll put them like 1 or 2 and then get like the memory back and then, you know, hatch, do the whole thing. We may still have turn, which is kind of cool, but we don't get to hatch, which I think is much more important for this deck. Being able to consistently have Gabumons promoting up, getting fuck ton of value out of our mats, and then threatening an Ancient Garurumon, if not every single turn, or I mean, if not multiple in a single turn, at least one every single turn is the idea. So that's how the tournament went. We did, oh, that was round 4. Round 5, we fought Imperial, just Imperial Raw, but they did have a really unique tech, being the Structure Deck Magda. That game was a bit of a wash. I may show a round from it just because there was a really funny interaction that happened that I think will kind of showcase some of the power of the deck. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to that part, and then we'll go straight into the deck profile. Sorry if it jump cuts here. So this is what I'm going to lovingly call AncientGabumon, or Gabu Hybrid, but I think AncientGabumon sounds a lot cooler, so that's what I'm gonna stick with whenever calling it that. Starting off with our eggs, we're only playing 4 eggs. I've played a little bit around with Sunamon to try and fit in some of the purple Gabumons into the list for some extra memory gain and stuff. However, I found that they're lacking in a lot of ways, and there's no other great blue egg that I really want in here. 9 out of 10 times. There's an argument that you can put a Bukamon in, and it definitely raises the level of your pressure that you're able to kind of push out. However, I've been a little bit let down by the inheritable. It's strong, don't get me wrong. The jamming is very, very nice. It lets you kind of consistently handle your plays a lot more. However, I just really value the drawing a card with the Wanya so much that I'm not even willing to risk putting in the single Bukamon that you're allowed in. There's definitely an argument for it though, and if you think that Bukamon serves you well, I can't argue against it in the list. It's really just personal preference for me in the moment. I haven't found like the optimal thing to go through it. Next up, we've got some level 3s. Starting off, we've got 4 of the EX1 Gabumon. This card is really, really good, specifically in this list. It's nice because it can search, I think like half of the cards in the deck with just the inheritable. For those of you who don't know, it's a when attacking inheritable once per turn. You reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Tamer card or 1 Digimon card with Gabumon and its name among them to your hand, and then place the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. It's really nice in the fact that your Tamers are exceptionally important for this deck, so being able to grab those are really good, and even just grabbing a backup Gabumon is nice. But the main reason that we do it is that the Tamers, and then it's really easy to proc your Ancient Garurumon if your opponent doesn't have anything to bounce, and which is also a really big plus. Most of the pieces in this deck have been picked purely because of the consistency they add, or because of the combo potential they bring to the table. Moving on to the next set of level 4s, we've got 2 of the BT17 Gabumon. Start of your main phase, give one of your Digimon blocker, and then if you have a mat, draw a card. Really, really nice. Super, super consistent. You'll have a mat out most of the time, which feels fantastic. And the inheritable is just when attacking, draw a card, which guarantees the Ancient Garurumon on your turn if your opponent doesn't have anything to bounce. The problem I've found with this card in particular is that it's basically the same as the Gabumon most of the time, especially early on into the game, because you'll just give itself blocker, which you don't care about almost ever. There's very, very rare circumstances where you will care about it. Which then just puts you down to the inheritable, and this Gabumon will let you go 3 cards deeper to find those Tamers that you're really looking for, compared to the inheritable here, which will only get you 1 card deeper. But this one can find you things like Lobo and things like Ancient Garuru, whereas this one can't. So that's where they kind of differ in their uniqueness. I've considered playing this at 4, just because it's pretty good. I really like it a lot still, even if it's a primary effect. The start of main one isn't online all the time. I just don't have all the cards for it. And we'll kind of go into that with the next level 3 here, being 2 of the BT6 Gabumon, the Gabu Bond one. The Inheritable never comes up in this deck because we don't play any of the Gabumon, and so I was just running it as a placeholder because I couldn't think of any other good Gabumon to run in the slot. I was really impressed though with the Alterns effect of whenever you play out a Mat Ashita, gain a memory. This guy became a really good way to kind of pass turn, just play it for 3, letting your Ancient pop, and then gaining back a quick memory by playing out a Mat for free using the Ancient effect. But we'll kind of go over that a little bit. Just know that it came up a couple times where the playing this for 3 as the means to pass turn from like 0, playing this out for 3, go to 3, and then Ancient deletes itself. Then like we have like 2 analogs to gain back the memory, and we're just missing that extra memory. Being able to play the Mat and get the memory off the Gabu, we have no other play that puts us to 2 or less, was really fantastic. You typically probably don't have to rely on this, however. Something I've noticed throughout the tournament was I got better with playing the deck, obviously, and you're really able to manage the memory as long as you're kind of paying attention to what's going on. So this is like more of a way to kind of bail you out. And the big downside is obviously the Inheritable, which doesn't do anything for the deck whatsoever. Moving on to the next 4 of level 3, we've got 4 of the Gabu X's from BT9. This card is trash and good. Alright, allow me to explain. So this card does a little bit. 1, it allows you to kind of just cycle on top of your Gabus for an extra draw, which is nice. Essentially 4 copies of nothing is fantastic. You love it. Its when Digivolving on play effect is also super good because it searches out a Garurumon and Omnimon in name. So we can find a Omnimon for playing one, which we are playing 1 in this deck. But more importantly, we can find the Ancient Garurus because they do search Garurumon in name, which is really, really important. They also have the really nice effect of activating your Gabumon's Inheritables. If you're using your Gabumon as like a means of searching, you're in a pretty rough spot already, but this does allow you to do it, which is like the promotion. You try to find the Ancient, you don't get it, that's okay. You just swing with the Gabu X here, and then you'll either draw the card off of this one, or you'll get the reveal top 3 off of this one, depending what you're kind of looking for. And you'll also, depending on if you have a Tamer, get the draw off the Wanya, which is nice. It's really just here though as a means of cycling for 1 and then searching your top 3 for a Garuru. And then finally, our last level 3 is one of the limited EX5 Gabu X. This guy does the exact same as this Gabumon here, but it has a Inheritable, which is just better. It's just better. It's just a better Inheritable, first and foremost, considering it has 1 and this one doesn't. But this one actually can come up, as well as this one searches a card deeper, and it can also add the Gabu X's here, not just the Garurumon, which is nice. However, this one can't add Omnimon like this one can. So, ups and downs. I think this one's obviously just better, but, it is limited, so we can't play more than 1. Moving on to the level 4s, which are the entire reason this deck works, for Lobomon. For those of you who don't know, this guy has a 2-cost Evo on top of a blue, 4k DP. When Digivolving, your Digimon can Digivolve into an Ancient Garurumon in your hand for a memory cost of 1, ignoring its requirements. If it does, delete this Digimon at the end of the turn, and then the Heritable does not matter at all in this deck. So, being able to go straight into an Ancient Garurumon for 3 memory total, this plus the Ancient Garurumon in hand, is really gross. It's another deck where it seems like all of the decks in the meta have like some weird cutoff memory point, and for this one it is 3 memory, similar to like Numemon being the 3 memory cutoff point. This is the whole reason the deck works. It is everything the deck cares about. Once you find 1, you're usually good for the rest of the game, luckily. So these other 3 are just like, literally just here for consistency. You have to find 1 though. The point of the deck is everything is so draw heavy and so consistency heavy that you're guaranteed to find at least 1 Lobomon and then some number of Ancient Garurus throughout the game. And that's going to allow you to do some really disgusting, insane stuff. But hopefully we'll be able to get to the commentary gameplay part of the video safely. And that's it for the level 4s. And we're going to skip our level 5s, and we're going to go straight into our level 6s. We're playing 4 of the Ancient Garurumon. Ancient Garurumon is on play when Digivolving, balance your opponent's lowest level Digimon. And then your turn, when a card is added to your or your opponent's hand, bounce the top card of the security to hand. And then on deletion, it gets the ability to add back one Digimon with hybrid in its traits and one tamer from your trash as well. And then you can play out a tamer from hand without paying the cost. So the idea is you just get huge value by playing this guy out for 3 memory total with the Lobobon effect. You ideally bounce something. If you don't, that's okay. You'll swing and you'll typically get some card added to your hand. And when you do, you'll bounce some card of the security, do the extra check there. That's 2 checks for very little investment. And then once you pass your turn by either like putting like some amount of low memory or whatnot, you'll get back a tamer from trash as well as the Lobomon that you use to Digivolve into this guy, typically. And then play out a tamer for free. And that will be how you pass turn. With nothing on field to kind of interact with again, you're in a really good spot. You did 2 checks for super, super low investment. And you can kind of just keep doing that throughout the course of the game, which is really good. This card is a house, in fact. Moving on from our level 6s, because that's all we're playing, onto our level 7s. We've got 2 Imperial Dramon Paladin mode. This card's really, really nice. I'm playing it at 2 because it helps in, I think, one of our worst matchups. Kind of deal with what they're doing a little bit, which is nice. As well as the Ace effect does come up every once in a while. And you may be asking, hey, this guy deletes himself using the one effect and there's no other way other than like hard playing him for a minimum cost of 9. That seems really bad. Well, we'll kind of get there. This is a combo deck. Think of it more like purple and blue have kind of like a weird, disgusting love child that is really disgusting and strong, instead of just like a regular blue combo deck similar like old Melga. And then onto our last level 7, we do have 1 Blitz Omni. This guy comes up every once in a while. He's searchable, which is why I kind of like have him in here, as well as he's a white level 7, which does play into the Paladin mode here. I've thought about maybe adding in either another Lament or another Paladin mode instead. I just really like the ability to check, and if my opponent has been kind of defensive, I'm allowed to get like that final check in, stealing game from them. It's essentially our hybrid for game. I would play it. I think that it's come up 0 times total, but I mean, it's still really nice to have, just as like a fallback plan. And I think a lot of the times that it did come up, my opponent just ended up scooping before it ever really mattered, or right the turn before I was going to do it anyways. But moving on from our level 7s, we got our Tamers for Analog Youth. This guy does so much for the deck. All the Tamers in this deck are mandatory at 4. I think that they're too disgustingly good to not run at 4, and you want to see multiple copies of all of your Tamers throughout every game. I can't think of a single game where you want to see like less than 1 copy of every single one of your Tamers. So the analog use are consistency tools, as well as they are combo tools. I'll kind of go into a little bit more about how the combo works after this, but until then, we'll just kind of keep these guys right here. 4 of Analog Youth. Then we have 4 of the Louis. The 3-cost one lets you promote from raising. This guy's really important for being able to do multiple Ancient Garurumons in a single turn, which happens. I think if it's just like a game that's gone kind of long, you can pretty consistently get 3 Ancient Garurumon bounce effects from Scariest in a single turn, which feels fantastic. Obviously, you can hypothetically get more, but 3 I think is like the typical upper limit that you'll get in any given game. And then finally, onto our last set of Tamers. We've got 4 Matt Ashidas from BT6. For those of you guys that don't know, this guy has a Your Turn effect. When one of your Digimon with Gabumon or Garurumon in name moves from the breeding area to the battle area, gain a memory and trigger draw 1. It has a main effect that lets you go into Gabumon by trashing 2 for 3 memory on top of a Gabumon. As you saw with the Gabumon here, it has like some synergies there. I've tested it out a little bit and I've been very unimpressed with the old Gabumon in this current format, just because everyone's so aggressive. Getting rid of 2 security just to do 2 checks feels kind of bad a lot of the time. So I haven't, I've elected not to run that in this list. However, the your turn effect, as mentioned, the one that gains memory and draws a card, is not once per turn. So every time you promote, you will be getting this effect. So those of you who are privy are starting to kind of piece things together here, but we'll go ahead and finish out real quick. That's it for the tamers, so we'll go ahead and move on to the options. We've got 4 hammer sparks. Just another combo tool, really useful for kind of like handling like a little bit of a messy memory turn. Or if your opponent is kind of like choking you out and you weren't able to get some amount of memory, or God forbid your opponent has a Digimon Emperor out, and you weren't able to gain a huge amount of memory off your Mats and Louis, these guys will save you for sure. We'll go ahead and put these here, I guess. We'll deal with that later. Up next, we've got 4 mental trainings. Really, really good card. Searches Lobo, searches Ancient Garurumon, searches our Mats. You can get a Gabu if you really need it. This is like the ideal turn 1 play is Gabumon in the back and then a mental training for 2. Because on the crackback, then you can go into an Ancient Garurumon for 1 memory, which feels fantastic. It feels really gross. Being able to go into an Ancient Garurumon for 1 memory is really unfair. Really unfair. But we'll kind of go over that again. I'll go over obviously like the ideal, like most broken, probably starting hand you can get in the game for this deck as well. Moving on, we've got 2 blue memory boosts. I used to be playing the BT17 mat in this slot here. However, that mat only searches your Ancient Garurumons and Gabumons. And I really just wanted more cards that let me pick up Lobomons as well. So that's why these ended up in the slot. I was pretty happy with them a lot of the time. They're a little bit clunky, obviously, compared to the mental training, and extra memory is really, it's night and day. But being able to search your top 4, if you're like really desperate, being able to get that guy out and go and grab a Lobomon off of it feels pretty good. Into another 2 guys here. We've got 2 Lament of Friendship. This has, I think, been probably the biggest sleeper card for me in this deck upon picking it up. I saw a list kind of running like one of it, and I wanted a little bit more consistency, and I've tinkered a lot with my list. Is very different from everything I've seen so far, so we'll kind of go over that to an extent. But this, I think I've honestly considered bumping it up to 3. It is a combo piece. It is a disgustingly good combo piece. Just the ability to grab back an Ancient Garurumon is really nice, especially if you have an Ancient Garurumon on field and you need to pass turn. This is a wonderful way to do it because you can play it out for 3 on top of the Ancient Garurumon, give it the undeletion to play itself back, pass turn, put your opponent like 2 or 3, maybe even 1, and then Ancient Garurumon's undeletions effects will trigger. You'll get the Tamer, you'll get the Lobo back, you'll get like the Tamer back as well playing it for free, and then you'll get the Ancient Garurumon back on field, and it'll stick. And if they have something else to bounce, it will bounce it and be really, really gross. My opponent tried playing around Ancient Garurumon effect in one of the tournaments, in one of the rounds. I think it was the finals, and they had the Beamon out and a Paladin mode after having stripped my Ancient Garuru. So I didn't get to keep turn with using my analog youths, but I did just end up Lament of Friendshipping them after Hammer Sparking twice, paying 3 to get out a Mat, and then lamenting the Ancient Guru. Ancient Guru deletes itself, plays out, I think it played out like a Louis, because I don't think I have any Tamers in trash, but then playing out the Ancient Garurumon again, bouncing the Paladin mode, overflowing for 5, and then they also had the other ace underneath it, the fighter mode, so they overflowed for another 4, putting me to 6, and then bounced top card of their security hand. From that point, the game was just over. There was unfortunately not much they could do. I was in a not a fantastic position with like the egg situation because I couldn't hatch using the analogs, but it was still fantastic for me just from like a gameplay position. Then we got 2 one-ups. We've got Supreme Cannon and Ice Wall. Ice Wall is nice because it can kind of slow down your opponent on the like final turn. It's a really, I think, kind of like a skill testing card because it's at 1, where you have to kind of understand where your opponent is going to kill you at and play it that turn. If you play it beforehand, obviously it still like finds some amount of use, but it won't be nearly as impactful as buying you that extra turn that I don't think many other cards could. And then typically, you know, on the crackback, you will end up killing your opponent. So Really important to have that. And then Supreme Cannon is really good for two particular reasons. One, much like other decks, this deck in particular has two particular fatal flaws. Fuck, I'm saying too much again. This deck has two particular fatal flaws. The first one being Digimon Emperor, and the second one being Garurumon. But we'll get into those as well in a bit. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move over into the combo section. Okay, so let's start off with, I think, what is the God hand, in my opinion. I think probably the best hand the deck can produce, period. And this will kind of show you guys the idea of what the deck is trying to do, and then go from there. So to start things off with, we've got a Gabumon in hand, a Analog Youth, an Ancient Garurumon, a Lobomon, and a Mental Training. Now, obviously, a lot of the hand can kind of change depending on what you get off, like the Mental, the draw of the Gabu, the Analog Youths, and even the draws off of the Lobo into the Ancient Garuru, and then your draw for turn on the Crackback. However, please keep in mind, this is like everything. This is like everything you need. Everything else is combo pieces that will let you extend and do really absurd, disgusting stuff. This is the core. So what I would do, starting off with, I would Digivolve in the back for 0 here, because I think this is the best Gabumon to start with, because it is the one that you want to attack with the most, because it searches out your Tamers and more Gabus, which is really nice. You're going to pretty consistently hit off of that. And then I would Mental Training for 2. Obviously, I would search, I'd probably take something. We don't care. We're just going to show what is the idea of the deck here going forward. Our opponent will put us back. If they put us to 2, we can do everything and more. If they put us to 1, we can only do everything. And what I mean by that is, if they put us to 2, we can keep turn and keep doing some gross stuff depending what our draws are. If they put us to 1, currently we cannot keep turn unless we draw like a Hammer Spark or some other way to kind of gain memory. But we would promote here from 1 memory. So we'll just show you we'll show you from 2. We'll show you from 2. If your opponent puts you to 2, we would pop the Mental Training, Digivolve for 0 into Lobo, and Lobomon effect will let you Digivolve for 1 into Ancient. Assuming we don't bounce anything, we swing into Security, reveal top 3, and then worst case scenario is we don't hit off of the Gabu. That is like worst case scenario. And then dying in Security. Those are the 2 worst things to happen in that order specifically. Both of those are kind of manageable. They're bad, but the worst one I think is dying in Security, and then it gets infinitely worse if you die in Security and don't hit off the Gabu. But you swing in, you check, you probably won't die in Security, but let's assume we didn't hit off the Gabumon. We then play out the Analog Youth for 2. Analog will search. If Analog hits, which it probably will, odds are Analog will hit something, it will then proc the Ancient Guru, so that's even like a great way to kind of like resolve the issue there. And then if your Analog mills any Tamers, we go to end of turn, Ancient Garurumon will trigger, we'll add back the Lobomon to hand, the rest of this will get deleted, and if we have a Tamer in trash, we'll add it back to hand, and then throughout the course of that, if we drew any stuff, like any Tamer, we can go ahead and play that out for free, and then we will suspend the Analog Youth to gain a memory and hatch a card. Okay, gang, I've set up just like a pretty normal board, I think, going in to like a turn, like your turn like 3 or turn 2, depending on like how bricked up you were, etc., etc. Like we just chilling, nothing too crazy here, nothing crazy in trash for like Tamers or stuff. Like our Analog didn't hit too crazy, but our hand is really nice for getting a combo off. We will be able to kind of do everything. It does adjust depending on how much memory our opponent put us at. If they put us at 2, I think we can do a lot. 3 is crazy. Anything above 3, we're cooking heavy. And then 1, I think we can just do the regular stuff. So we're just going to assume 2 for now, and we'll kind of adjust depending. I may need to up that to 3. But, so, we'll start our turn. We'll draw a card. Okay. Hammer Spark. Then we will promote. Matt will gain me a memory and draw me another card. Okay, another Hammer Spark. Sick. Cool. Hammer Sparks are always nice because they're just like combo extenders. So with this, I can probably do, the whole combo even if I don't need BT3. So we'll see. Then we will go ahead and Digivolve for 0. This is nice because it lets us search for an extra Ancient Garurumon. So we'll get the draw. It's an Ancient Garurumon, and then we'll go 1, 2, 3. We do whiff the rest of this though, which is fine. Having that map would have been kind of nice because we don't have another great tamer to play out in this hand, but that's okay. I think it's only excess from here on out. Then we'll go ahead and pop the Mental Training. Mental Training will let me Digivolve for free directly into the Lobo, draw. And Lobo will let me Digivolve for 1 memory into the Ancient Garurumon, drawing a card. We're now at 2 memory. Assuming our opponent is at 5 security and has 0 things to bounce on field. So we're chilling. We will then, if we want to play really safe, we analog here, so it's probably the move. We will analog Youth for 2, go to 0, reveal 1, 2, 3. We hit a mat, and we'll take the Omnimon to hand, because why not? Great. Rest goes to trash. Analog added a card to hand. That will proc the Ancient Garurumon. We'll go ahead and bounce a card to hand. Then we will swing into security. We'll proc the Wanyamon first. We'll go ahead and draw a card, and the Gabumon will reveal 1, 2, 3. We'll just take a Gabumon, and then we'll bottom deck the rest. We do the check, and we survive. Fantastic. Goated even. From here, we go ahead and Hammer Spark. Hammer Spark will gain me a memory. And then because we have a mat, we can ignore your color requirements of the Lament of Friendship. Lament of Friendship for 3. Effect of the Lament, we can add back a guy from the trash. It doesn't matter. There's something in here that we explicitly really want. Like you can add back the Gabu X here. Just for the sake of continuity, I'm not going to. We're just going to say I don't have anything good and trash that was milled, so we're not going to add anything back, but we will still target the Ancient Garurumon. And it has on deletion, I can play this card without paying the cost until the end of my opponent's turn. Now we go to end of turn effects. The Ancient Garurumon will trigger. We'll go ahead and trigger his effects first. You gotta do it in this order, because if you play him out, he's no longer going to be in trash, whereas on deletions will trigger, so then that will fizzle. Don't do that. You can add back the Lobomon, so now we have half of our combo pieces again, and we can add back the mat that we just milled off of the Analog Youth here. Then following the Lament will trigger. We'll play out this guy again. Fantastic. Beautiful even. Then we will suspend 2 Analog Youth. He also plays out the mat for free, because why not? Then we'll spend 2 Analog Youths, gain 2 memory, and hatch a card. From here, we have a lot that we can kind of play around with. The first thing that we can kind of do is Digivolve for 0 in the back, draw. Ooh. We actually need 1 more memory. So assuming we were at 3, we would have put our opponent at 1. We tap both of our analogs to gain 2. And from here, we do have the nuts. So we need 1 more memory. So 3 was the cutoff there, instead of 2 for disgusting amounts of combo. So right now our opponent's at 3 security. We will then Louis for 3 memory. Put our opponent at 1. Promote the guy. Back to the Louis. Suspend. Gain a memory. And then affect both mats. Draw 2 cards. And gain 2 memory. And now, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken, that will trigger the Ancient Garurumon to then bounce another security. So now they're down to 2 security. This is all on just a crackback, no board, just a tamer, and a mental training. And of course, that doesn't have to be the exact order. It could be like a couple mats, maybe a couple analogs. The exact order doesn't matter too much. Just this is a concept of something that you can realistically do, and I did it multiple times in multiple games throughout the tournament, which you will see after this. So from here, we're at 2 memory again, 2 from the mats and 1 from the Louis, nullifying the Louis cost. We then Hammer Spark, go to 3. If you had an extra Hammer Spark, you didn't need to do the memory starting at 3, or you could have maybe like finagled it around a little bit better. Obviously, this deck is hard to pilot. You need to kind of predict a little bit of what you're going to get. But Digivolve for 2, to Lobo. Draw. Effect of the Lobo will digivolve for 1 into Ancient. Draw. Great. So now our opponent is at 2 security, and we now have 2 checks right here. We will swing into security. When attacking, we will draw a card. Another Louis, fantastic. And then Gabumon will trigger reveal 1, 2, 3. We'll just take the Gabu, and then we'll have to bottom deck the Ancient, sadly. But, you know, this one will not trigger because we did add a card to hand with the Wanya and the Gabu. Doesn't matter when you trigger it, as long as you resolve it, which will bounce their security. The Ancient Lobo will do a check into them, breaking them down to 0 security. And now, depending on how many analogs you have, or how many mats you have, or kind of what's like going on, you can kind of adjust things. Like, I don't have to use this Omni to win if I have a Hammer Spark, an extra analog already on play. Yeah, those are the 2 that do it. If I have an extra Hammer Spark or an extra analog in play, I don't have to use the Blitz Omni, because assuming, let's say we don't have the Blitz Omni, because obviously Blitz Omni does win the game here. That does the 6th check, that does the game. All from a empty board state. We ended on 3 level 6s throughout the turn, triggered all 3 of them, and then did a total of 2 swings, which is 5 checks, and then they Blitz Omni for game. Let's assume that we don't have Blitz Omni. Well, what can we do? Let's assume we have a Hammer Spark. So we Hammer Spark, go here, and then we analog for 2. Analog effects, real 1, 2, 3. The add here doesn't matter. We'll just add the Paladin because why not? It's mainly here as just utility. End of turn effects will not trigger. This guy will get deleted. We'll check real quick to see if we milled a Tamer at any point. We unfortunately did not. That's okay. And so we'll just add back the Lobo, and then Ancient Garurumon will allow me to play out a Tamer, which we will. We'll go ahead and play out a Louis for free. Now, obviously nothing to trigger his effects. This guy will leave the field. Then we'll suspend our analog. Analog will gain us a memory and hatch us a card. And then from here, we can just go Digivolve in the back for 0, draw, play out a Louis for 3 memory, promote, trigger the mats and the Louis to gain back 3 memory and draw 2 cards. We could gain more memory, obviously, off the other Louis, but it's not necessary because now we can just swing for game. Yeah, this is gross. This deck is gross. I know this seems like a YouTube combo. I promise you it's not. This is something that just happens. This is something that just happens, and you'll see that in a second. Okay, so this is game 3 of round 3. I am currently against Garurumon Red Hybrid, and we'll see how it goes. We'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit. My opponent is going first because I won round 2 and they run round 1. They're starting off pretty strong in the back. I mean, just getting like the Uko and stuff, but hard playing in Mucho feels kind of bad. So we got put to 3, now we're at 1, we play out the analog. Not a great analog, but we're able to follow it up with a pretty solid second analog, and then no great analog there, unfortunately. This is where I realized my misplay was I should have analogued first to see if I could get a better Gabumon, but that's fine. He swings, he hits the mat. I'm going to pause here real quick. Something to know about this deck is that because I'm playing 12 Tamers, 4 Mental Trainings, 2 Memory Boosts, 4 Hammer Sparks, a Ice Wall, 2 Laments, there's not many great hits in security for my opponent if they're trying to kill our card. Like, it's like 50-50 chance you die in security. And most of the time, if you swing in, you're going to hit something really good on my side, such as the mat. Swings into the Uko, you know, hits a Lobo, that's completely fine. Nothing in the back, though, is really, really sad. I'm assuming he figured he'd hit something with the draw off the Uko, as well as the draw off the Mucho, and then the draw off the Koro. The Uko draw being the one he digivolves on top of the egg for, but, you know, it is unfortunate. We promote, we start revealing, we do hit the Ancient Garurumon, which I know is something that I was missing, and then we do pitch something. Typically here you want to pitch a Tamer because they just come back with the Ancient Garurumon effect, so we do pitch the Louis, which is nice. and we will see. I'm thinking here a little bit. 2 into Lobo, which will put, yeah, and then 1. Bounce the Mucho, which I was pretty happy with. Typically, I wouldn't have gone for that kind of play, just because it does immediately kill the Ancient Garurumon, and we need to kind of like get it back. But because I saw that he didn't have anything in security, I had already promoted trying to start cycling cards with the mat, and I didn't just want to swing and hope I'd die in security. So I figured giving him, getting rid of the Muchomon in play by bouncing it and then bouncing its security was the best option, since he would have very little to actually pressure me with, and then I would be able to analog set up a better Gabu in the back with some other stuff. We do add back the Louie and the Lobo, play out the Louie. I think I play out the Louie because in my mind I don't think I'm going to try and do like a full combo play, and so I'm kind of in this set so far, I had already seen a Digimon Emperor, so I'm trying to play around a future Digimon Emperor by just making it go net neutral. Alright, and now he's at 2 memory. We lamented. Lament obviously didn't have anything target, but we do get the Ancient Garurumon back, which is something that we are missing. So, got the EX in the back. He does evolves into the Mucho we knew in hand. He's got the 3-cost Koji in the back as well. I think my opponent just plays the 4-cost Koji, but I could be wrong. Okay, he does a Louie for 3. Keep turn. Okay, never mind. He does hit the mental training, which I think does cause him to lose the game because he hits that, but we'll see. The Muchomon surviving, my opponent is like, actually really upset about it, and that's valid. I think, you know, in the kind of mirror, you don't want anything on your board to live, but it doesn't really matter here because I'm able to trigger my own stuff pretty consistently. He just put me to 4 with the memory Koji, which also seals the deal. I'm pretty sure just that obscene amount of memory. You guys will see some of the combos that I talked about prior. Trigger the Louie, trigger the mat, get a card from the mat. Those analogs are unsuspended. Please unsuspend those. The Gabu X does hit though, which is nice. I really want to unsuspend the analogs, please. Okay, anyways, 2, go to 4, Lobo effect. We do have the Ancient Garurumon in hand. We have 2 known. Bounce and bounce. Alright, good. That was the Gabu search. I don't know if I got the 1 get draw, but it's fine. So, we got 3 memory left. If we have any good amount of... okay, Lament's crazy. Lament, we get back the Gabu X. I don't think it matters too much what we grabbed. I don't think there was an Ancient to grab back in trash. So now this one will come back. Analog for 2. Take the Ancient, trash the Louie. That Louie hit's really nice because now we can add back the Louie. And so if I didn't have another one in trash after playing out the prior Louie, we'll be able to like do pretty much everything here. We do play out the mat hand for free, get 3 memory, go back to 1 hatch, and then get the Gabu in the back. And Louie with the mats will let me go net neutral, go back to 1. Here my opponent is asking me about the mats, and he's finding out they're not once per turn. Kind of gross. We're just digivolving here. I think just like do some searching. I don't think I need to from this position, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing just like Justin. No, I have enough. I have enough of everything, actually. Yep. And that is game. That is game from how much memory? How much security was he at start of the turn? So before we get the first Ancient. So yeah, that was 4 security with just a Gabu and some Tamers. Definitely not bad. Definitely not bad. I'll see if we can find another one that can kind of showcase some gameplay. Alright, this is game 3 of, I think, round 4. I got the decks wrong in the order that I faced them, but I had all the decks that were right, just not in the right order. Anyways, my opponent went first. They went Vmon, Davis Ken, putting me to 4. I did the bad Gabumon and the analog in the back afterwards, which is a misplay on my part. I should have analogued first. We do not hit on the analog though, so I guess it doesn't matter in the end. It's just, doing it correctly. We do mill mat though, which is nice. We do love milling mats. And then we play out a mat for 3, which is also like kind of okay. You never really want to play out mat for 3. I mean, it doesn't feel bad to do so, mind you, especially if you're gonna like promote on the crackback. But typically you're gonna want to get out like mental trainings or memory boost or things like that, because mats can come out for free. My opponent activates their Davis Ken. They don't promote, but they do get the Searcher Vmon. And then, let's see. And then Davis Ken for 4. Made a 3. Draw and gain a memory, which is pretty nice. Analog effect, we reveal the Gabu X, and then Gabu X draw, and then reveal 3. And then that hits the Ancient Garurumon. So in total, we've searched 1 draw for turn, another draw for turn, another draw here, 1 draw here, search top 3, search top 3, search top 3. And there is our Ancient Garurumon. This deck is really intent on finding our combo pieces. It is very, very intent on doing so. Hammer Spark to go to 3, I think, is the cutoff because we are going to do the full combo. Bouncing the guy, which doesn't matter because he obviously will go back to hand anyways, but getting the security check is nice. Drawing off the Wanya, hitting a Pyldramon, the BT8 one, I think. The analog for 2. We are swimming in analog use, swimming in searchers. We get the Pyldramon, Imperial Dramon Paladin mode. And then we do add back the mat that we milled earlier. We play him out for free. Analog gave me 3, hatch. And then get the, that's the BT17 Gabumon on the back. Sorry for the glare. And then we mental training for 2, put him in 1. Nice. Getting another ancient feels fantastic. Probably one of the pieces I was missing. So he does promote. He does get activate the first Davis Ken. What does he add though? He does add a fighter mode ace. Okay. And then the other one will trigger adding the Vmon. So my opponent is a little bricked up, unfortunately. He digitals for 1 memory total. Gain 2. He is bricked right now because of the fact that he doesn't have, I think it's either the Stingmon or the Pyldramon. So he does swing in, which is a little risky, but against my deck, he knows that, I think we've talked about this like during game 2, is that like I play so many Tamers and Searchers that realistically you have like a pretty decent chance of surviving. Also, most of my Digimon are small. Like there's like, I think it's double double Paladin mode, 4 Ancients Omni, and then the 4 Lobos are the only things that can kill him here. The rest of it is either Gabumons or cards that benefit me on the crackback, like mats, like analogs, like Louis, like, all the other options. He does hit the Stingmon though, and then he does DNA, gain back 1, go into Pyl. He's talking about how many Tamers I have set up. I mean, Analog's 2 memory right now. Analog's 2 memory. That's cheap. That's cheap. He does swing and draw 3, and he does hit the mats. Like I said, odds are you'll hit a Tamer or you'll hit a option that makes it easier for me. So he swings again, draws another 1, and then hits another mat. Yeah, things are looking rough for my opponent. He stuns one of the analog use and then suspends a mat. But yeah, he does stun the guy. So right now on the board, he does have the Vmon in play, so I have to find a way around it. And if I go into an Ancient, he will be able to respond using the Dragon Mode effect. So we'll see how I go and deal with it. We do gain 4 memory off of promoting, and then we draw 4 cards, and then we draw 1 off the Gabu, which is so funny. So funny. Here I'm just looking at my trash, seeing if I have like any tamers or what I can kind of like finagle with a little bit. I know he has the ace in hand. I know what he's gonna want to do. I'm like, we just have to play around it. Mental for 0, and then Digivolve for 1. And then we fucked up immediately. Because I had a Supreme Cannon in hand, so the idea was Supreme Cannon first and then do all of this. But I fucked up, and I'm like, ugh, I can't take this back. That's so awful. I should have just played better. So I'll bounce the guy, bounce the security. So now I'm like, I'll like bitch and moan for like a second or two because I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at this game, it's crazy. But something that my less educated brain doesn't understand now is that because of how much memory I have, it doesn't matter, and in fact is probably better. So we'll kind of go over that in a second here. So I did think about the line, and then I find it, which is Gabu for 3, Digivolve for 2, Digivolve for 1, and then we bounce the guy. He will overflow because it is the ace, which feels pretty solid. He will partition. And because he does partition, we're at 2 security, so he's in position to kill me. Even if I bounce both these back to hand, he just needs 2 rookies and a Pile Dramon to kill me next turn. So I have to kill him this turn. I'm at 3 memory right now. Alright, so I'm just trying to find the optimal way to pass turns, so that way I can keep it with the analog youths on the end of turn effects. Taking the Gabu X. Yeah, just checking for tamers. We don't got any of those. We don't have any in hand either, so we'll just add back the Lobo and then not play anything out. We do gain 3 memory, go back to 1, Digivolve into 0, and then we Hammer Spark. I don't think it's necessary, but I could be wrong. Louis, gain 4, and then we Louis, but we don't move the Louis memory counter on my opponent's side because he was the one that keeping track. I should have been keeping track on my side as well. I was just trolling. Ancient, and then swing for game. Not bad. Definitely not bad. If I had Supreme Cannoned and then bounced him, could I have done the same play again? Let's see. Assuming all the cards in hand are the same, let's rewind the tape a little bit. We are at... I need to rewind a lot, actually. Okay. We go here. We would be at 3 less memory, so we'd be at 2. We would swing into security, get the check. He'd have nothing. He'd have the 2 level 4s on field, and then we would analog I guess Gabumon, assuming we don't have another. If we have another Louis in hand, we're probably completely fine. But if we don't, we just Gabumon. And then analogs play back to 0, hatch, Digivolve, Louis, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Louis effects. And then Hammer Spark, because we know we have one in hand. 2, 1, swing into security when attacking, bounce last security, win game. Yeah, so it didn't matter the order. I think I would have preferred this one though, because the one that I had just mentioned, not the one that actually happened, because I did that one through a misplay, and it required my opponent to ace me, I guess, and then have the cards in hand in order to go around it, instead of requiring less cards in hand and being able to just go from there. But yeah, welcome back, gang. I'm recording this before I do the commentary section over the gameplay, so forgive me if I say anything that I say over there. It is what it is. Going into, I think, the last two sections I really want to cover, which are counters for this deck, and then kind of what I think about the deck and how well I think it can perform. First off with the counters, there's only two real like hard counters for the deck. There is like some bad matchups like the demons, which I covered at some point, I think, probably. And then I'll figure out when I watch back. And then the, oh god, is there another hard matchup? Not really. I think the Demon Lords is like the only deck that I'm like, that's like a hard matchup. You can argue maybe like Tyrant or Magna, but we're also so fast that I don't really care too much about that. And even if they are redirecting me like once or twice, if I just kind of play smart, I'm not too scared of Tyrant killing me. Magna is a bit of a different story, but also again, they have to kind of be really quick and there's not much they can disrupt on my board. So don't care too much. For the hard counters though, in card choice, Digimon Emperor is one of the strongest cards against this deck. It slows us down by such a disgusting amount. I've done some testing games where a Digimon Emperor is dropped early and it completely slows down my game plan, first and foremost, but I have to adjust how I need to play this matchup from now on. Purely because of the fact that losing 2 memory every time you promote will put you out of the running for a lot of your combos. 1 memory is now no longer full combo with a mental training. Because even if you have a mat, you promote with the mat, you lose 1 memory and you draw a card as like just the net neutral thing. And then you Digivolve for 0, and then you Digivolve for 1. So from then on, even with the mat and mental training, 2 memory is now the cutoff point with that if you have a Digimon Emperor out, which is awful. We hate that. That's horrible. And that's in best case scenario that you have a mat and a mental training out. 2 mats, I mean, still kind of nice. Doesn't do what you'd want it to. Just 2 mental trainings doesn't do it either because you just pass turn. Like it requires you to have so many more pieces to kind of interact with the board. And even if you get it down kind of later, well, let's say we're like at 3 memory, we promote, we go to 1, but then we gain like 2. Like that's still like a net neutral like trade, which we hate because we're going to be trading so much like memory wise kind of going forward that we would have loved to be at 5 there. Being at 5 would have been disgusting. Being at 5 would have let us do so much. We'd have 2 memory and an Ancient Garurumon out, and that's so much to play with. That's a lament putting you to 1, potentially keeping turn and hatching and doing stuff. That's an analog youth into an analog youth keeping turn again off of that. Like there's so much you can kind of play around with memory wise from that position compared to here where now we're at 0. If we have no analog youth and we play out analog youth, I mean, cool, we hatch and you keep turn, and that means nothing. Lament, I mean, you're still at 3. Sure, there's an Ancient Garurumon on the field, but if it didn't bounce anything, I mean, it's just like a body that you can out at some point that will get us more value going forward, but even then, it's just not as impactful. And then the second card is specifically the Garurumon from BT7, I believe, the one that makes it that way you cannot ignore the evolution requirements. That completely stops the Lumon. It completely stops it in its tracks. You cannot use this effect at all, which is devastating. There's very few ways for this deck to actually out a Garurumon compared to the Ancient Garurumon that does have the luxury of running things like Crimson Blaze. The upsides, however, is that it's only able to be run in 1 deck, Nimamon, which I think is hilarious. The best deck in the format is also the only deck in the format that has one of the hard counters to Ancient Garurumon because of how much they skip evolution requirements, which is disgustingly funny that it just happens to be in the other best deck, and very few other decks are actually able to access that specific floodgate in a healthy and meaningful way. But those are the cards that kind of counter it. I'm sorry if it feels like, oh, there's no like great counters. Like there are, it's just they're very like tied down into like niche cards or tech cards that you're already kind of wanting to be running, which I think like 3 or 4 Emperors is probably going to be the move this format, unironically, just because of how good it is going to be against a lot of the best decks in the format. But how I think the deck is going to perform. I think this is one of the best decks in the format. Unironically, I think it's disgustingly good. It's super consistent. It's able to, I think, accomplish what no other deck is able to do. Even other Garurumon hybrid, Ancient Garurumon hybrid decks, I think cannot keep up with the pace of what this deck is able to accomplish. Consistently getting off 2 Ancient Garurumon effects a turn is broken, and there's no deck that is able to, I think, deal with that in a meaningful or healthy way. So keep that in mind. If people are running tech cards, though, to beat it, or to beat decks that are similar to it and they happen to line up, such as Kakua and Ancient Digimon Emperor, this deck will struggle specifically against those tech cards. It's kind of similar to like Royal Knights getting like a Chikurimon dropped on them. It's like, whew. But if you don't drop that Chikuri, they do feel overwhelmingly strong. So keep that in mind going forward. I am nonetheless very, very happy with this list, and am excited to see if anyone else can make some improvements to it. I'm always bubbling between adding more Laments, because it is just a combo piece, a really good one. Maybe adding in more mat names, so Laments online more, but then, what do we take out? Adjusting the Gabumon ratios, because again, mentioned, the Gabumon isn't that great, but being able to pass turn and then gain a memory off of a mat, being played from the Ancient Guru keeping turn still feels really nice as like a utility piece. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, etc., etc. Good luck, team.